Hey, my name's StanBicknell. Before we kick off, let's get some drums happening. Great, let's get into it. All right, welcome to the Drum Cave. So it's a big, bold title on this video, how to get the gig of your dreams. I realize that it's quite a statement, but I truly believe that if you listen to what I have to say here, you will get results, okay? So if you follow it to the T, the blueprint that I'm about to share with you, you will get the gig/opportunities of your dreams, okay? So first and foremost, let's acknowledge that the word gig can be switched out for opportunities. It doesn't just mean like a physical gig. It means anything that you want to do with your creative outlet. So it could be live, it could be studio. I mean, I'm always going to talk about it through the lens of drumming, but we could be talking about a photographer. We could be talking about a painter. You could be a documentarian. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, okay? This process will work for you regardless if you actually do the work, okay? So the reason why I'm talking about this is because it comes up quite a lot. So I run a website called masterminddrummer.com where I sell drum courses of curriculum that I sort of see as high value ticket items, things that will really sort of evolve and elevate your playing to the next level. But the backbone behind Mastermind Drummer is the idea of developing the person alongside the player. Now, this has really just happened over a period of time where my personal journey has now sort of bled into my drumming. The two were just sort of sitting side by side for years. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for a really long time now. So things that will help me evolve as a person alongside trying to work on my playing and evolve as a player. And then I realized in recent years when I was attracting an audience and a customer base that were into the ideas that I was sharing online, that these two things are symbiotic and they are one and the same. So that's the message that I'm sharing here with Mastermind Drummer, developing the person alongside the player. So in short, I think about this stuff quite a lot. I think about how do you get the gig of your dreams? Why does that person have the gig that you want and you don't have the gig that they have? And like I say, gig can just mean opportunity. It can mean anything in the creative field. But I do feel that there is a really clear path and a real clear system that you can sort of incorporate into your world to get results. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I'm just riffing with you here. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to share it from my perspective. So I talk about this stuff quite a lot in my weekly newsletter. So at Mastermind Drummer, every week I send out a newsletter to my subscribers, coming up 1,000 newsletter subscribers now, which is amazing. And it's always just sharing ideas around mindset, systems, habits, processes, anything regarding how you can level up as a person, but then also sharing, insights to being a professional creative. So once again, through the lens of drumming, but you can kind of switch out drumming for any creative outlet, okay? If you want to subscribe, you can head over to masterminddrummer.com and you can just punch your name into my email catch and then, you'll get a weekly newsletter from me. It's a free newsletter. There's no provisions or anything like that. You just sign your name up and I send you a weekly spiel on how to level up. Anyway, that aside. So this idea for me is always floating around because of my mastermind stuff, but then I find often when I'm sharing stuff online, and I don't know why this is, but with Threads specifically, if I go on Threads to do a post, the algorithm tends to share me almost like this dialogue of people that I don't even follow. It's just sharing me these messages of people basically saying that they don't have the opportunities that they feel they deserve. Things are tough, which I know things are tough. I get that. Definitely in this day and age. I mean, this is a tough year for a lot of people in the creative space, especially in the post-COVID world. But I understand things are tough. But yeah, for some reason on Threads specifically, I am getting shared a lot of ideas and messages around how people's creative endeavors are just not panning out. They're not getting the opportunities that they once hoped for. So I want to talk about this specifically. So for me, I've always come from the place of accountability. I remember my wife came into the room maybe a year ago and she said, I just heard this amazing thing on a podcast. And I said, what was that? And she said, the person said that your life may not be your fault. So your situation may not be your fault, meaning an external source has created something to cause a problem in your life, but it's certainly your responsibility. So even though something created a problem in your life, how are you going to deal with it, right? So, I mean, I think that's sort of pulling from Stoicism, but for me in a nutshell, it's just all about accountability. And because I naturally sit in a place of accountability, I left school very young, I left home very young, started working full-time very young. I had my first child when I was very young. All these things happened and I was never in a mindset of it being a problem. I was never a victim about any of it. I've always taken full accountability for the things that happened in my life. That's just sort of the way that I've sort of moved through things. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. So when it comes to getting the gigs or opportunities of your dreams, I do feel that we need to zoom out a little bit. So look at things from a more macro perspective. And I'm going to try not to waffle too much here and talk about things in very simple terms, because at the end of the day, I've always said that I'm pretty basic, and the way that I sort of work through my own barriers or my own problems that I come up against is I just simplify them, strip them back to their basics, look at them from a macro perspective, and then once I've got my head around it, then I can zoom in and organize the details. And that's what I want to do now. So from a creative's perspective, if you zoom right out on your career and your life, you're going to be left with two categories, okay? So no matter what you do, no matter how far you zoom out, you're still going to be left with two categories. So through that lens of being a drummer, those two categories for me are the value that I hold on the drums, so the value that I have as a player, how proficient am I as a player, and then the value that I hold off the drums, so off the kit. So, what is the value that I hold as a person, as a philosophy, as a character? Not a character as in playing a character, but my personal character, my philosophy, my personality, everything that's happening off the drums. These are the two categories that you're left with if you zoom as far as you can back on your life as a professional creative or someone who's trying to make it in the creative space professionally. And so when I'm left with these two categories, then I start to think about them, because once again, it's like, okay, we've got our two main categories, on the kit and off the kit, and now it's about breaking them down even further. So let's talk about on the kit first, because I find in the drumming space specifically, people tend to only focus on that space. So let's just start there. It's an easy buy-in straight away to talk about, right? So if I think about the value that you hold as a player, and let's just talk about that for a second. I don't mean the monetary value. I mean, how good are you at what you're doing on the drums? Now, it's subjective, but it's from your perspective, right? So first and foremost, you need to know your goals as a player. So short term, mid-term, and long term, you need to be thinking about, where you are currently, where do you want to be soon, and where do you want to be down the track, all right? Because without goals, you're not going to figure anything out. You don't necessarily need to overall achieve that goal. But what happens is that when you put a mark in the sand of something that you're heading towards, deviations in the road can now present themselves because you've started moving. And sometimes in those deviations in the pathway, that's actually the better pathway for you anyway. So you set your goals first, you zoom out, you set your goals. We've written down our goals. We know exactly where we want to be in short term and where we want to be long term as a player. What defines a good player? Now, when I write my newsletters around this topic, I would say, in my opinion, but I don't want to say in my opinion in this case. I'm just going to tell you what are the attributes that make up a good player, okay? So I break down, once again, zooming out, a good player into three categories. These three categories, in my opinion, is what makes up a great player, okay? So category number one, your groove, all right? So your pocket, your feel, however you want to interpret it. I've heard people talk about, the word pocket in many different ways, but let's just say your groove, because that is the foundation of everything that you do on the drums. You are the backbone to the music that you're supplying the rhythm for, okay? So talking about how to develop your groove. Now, I get asked how to develop pocket all the time, and the first thing that I always say is, first and foremost, you're a product of your influences. So go through your record collection, go through your Spotify, and find 10 songs or 10 artists that when you hear that music, you interpret that music or that drummer playing to the music as having great feel, great groove, great pocket. Once you've figured out what those tracks are, you need to play along to them, and you need to play along to them for hours, and you need to play along with them so tight that you put the drummer, you can't even hear the drummer anymore. Yeah, it's called putting them out of phase. So you're playing so tight along with the music that you can no longer hear them. And so I used to do this for hours. I mean, I still do it now with certain music, but I used to spend a lot of time not just playing along to music, because we all do that, but I would be working on trying to play so tight that I couldn't even hear the drummer anymore, because then you're actually building in the pocket and the feel of that drummer because you're hearing it in reference to the music that they're playing with. So first and foremost, build your pocket to a really high standard and a really high level, because initially that's what's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back on how you're interpreted as a player, okay? Musicians want to know, how good is your pocket? How good is your feel? Can you groove? Okay, that's the first part. So category number one, groove, pocket, feel. Okay, now category number two is for some controversial, but for me it's not at all. But it's the category of facility. So I like to use the word facility because I think it's a classier way of saying chops, but essentially we're saying the same thing. Okay, so developing your chops and never losing the desire and the edge to develop your chops. And the reason why is because there's two parts to it. First and foremost, if you want really, really good pocket, work on your facility. And the reason why is because at any given time, you're working in subdivisions. So if you're playing quarter notes, we can still acknowledge that there's eighth notes in there, there's 16th notes, there's 32s, there's 64s, there's 32 trips, there's 16th trips. There's always so many more fundamental grids that are going on underneath what you're currently doing. And so when you work on facility, so when you work on your chops, so going through linear, non-linear, odd number groupings, the conversation between the hands and feet and all these things, and you're acknowledging those other subdivisions, your awareness of space and time, and specifically the space between the notes that you're playing, gets really, really good, okay? So you get a heightened sense for accuracy of space. And good feel and good consistent groove is really about acknowledging that space. Now, once you've got that locked in, you can manipulate it, play behind the beat, play ahead of it, add some swing to it to get that Dilla thing going on, playing in fives. All these things are great. But what it is an awareness of the space between the notes. And so in my personal experience, I'm not even going to say anecdotally, I'm just going to say in my experience, the more I work on my facility alongside my pocket and my groove, the better my groove gets. But also, so that's the first part, you're getting better at sort of putting your pocket and feel forward, because you've now got a much more acutely aware perception of time and space with notes. But then the other part is that you're starting to develop enough tools in your arsenal to bring your voice forward as a player. And this leads into the third category, okay? So as a player, we've acknowledged that the first category is your feel and groove and pocket. The second category is your facility or your chops, all right? So developing those two at all times. And then the third category, which really is the icing on the cake in terms of what makes a great player, is your personality. Like your voice, what you have to offer, so that you're not a carbon copy of someone else, so that you're not beige and sound like 1,000 other drummers out there, which I find that the people that don't pursue facility on some level, and that can mean whatever it does to you, but let's just say on some level, they lack personality. I see so many people defending this guard of only working on pocket and never working on chops because pocket's all that matters, but they just sound boring and average. Everyone that sounds decent, most players with great pocket, they've all got an incredible facility as well. Now, you don't have to be Marco Minimum, like you don't have to be Nate Smith. Like, facility just means that you're exploring your options and you're adding more tools to the arsenal of just the standard playing time, okay? So once you get those two things in motion, now you can start to look in other places for inspiration, which in turn becomes your personality and your voice, okay? So the more tools that you can put in your arsenal, the more you're able to express yourself and create a sound. Now, all I'm ever trying to do on the drums is just pursue and explore the idea of what my sound is. And I've got ways that I do that. So I work in a lot, when I'm working on my facility, I work a lot in odd number groupings, the conversation between linear and non-linear, dynamics. So I'm always very conscious of where I'm placing certain dynamics, and that's a really unique journey as well. That will really, really determine what your voice starts to sound like. And then I'm also thinking about things like the mechanics of what I'm doing too. So, you know, my single kick, playing around what I'm doing, and just that conversation between the hands and feet, just all of that really, really plays into my voice and my personality as a player. Now, this is a lifetime quest. I don't feel like I have a voice yet. Other people have told me that I do. But one way that I work on this is that I don't really listen to a lot of drummers much anymore, because I've been playing for 27 years now. The last thing I want is to be taking ideas from other drummers. I've spent a lot of time working on other drummers playing, so I've done medleys around certain drummers, so Thomas Hark from Meshuggah, John Theodore from the Mars Volta. I've had my moments where I've been obsessed with guys like, I was in a Tool tribute band, so Danny Carey when I was 18 years old, Carter Beaufort around that time as well. All the rock groove guys from the 90s, so Brad Wilk from Rage Against the Machine, David Silvera from Korn, we've got Jose from Incubus, John Otto from Limp Bizkit, Abe Cunningham from Deftones. Like, those were all my guys in my early years, and I spent a lot of time obsessing over their styles. But the longer you play, I feel the longer you play, the more you should detach from, really locking into what a certain player is doing, and really trying to expand your tools in your arsenal so that you can really figure out what your voice is. And I say this to everyone that I teach one-on-one, all the coaching sessions that I do and stuff. Like, man, what do you have to say on the drums? Figure it out. What's your voice? What do you stand for? Find something. And, it's not going to cater to everyone, but when you've got your own voice, it shouldn't cater to everyone. And it's not even about trying to cater to everyone. It's about just trying to express yourself, and it will find its own audience. So finding a personality, finding a voice, and just expressing yourself, to me, that's the most important thing out of everything. It's like, what do you have to say on the drums? The gig will match the person, all right? So once you've started to express yourself in a certain way, once you've got your pocket dialed in, you're working on your facility constantly, and then you're inspiring yourself out there in ways where you now are starting to shape a voice. What you find is that if you start sharing that online, you will get opportunities that match that, because if you're marketing yourself properly, then people that your style will suit will be attracted to what you do, and in turn they will come in and give you opportunities based on your playing, okay? But like I said at the start of this, there's 2 categories in total, okay? There's on the kit and off the kit. So just to wrap up on the kit, dial in your pocket, always be working on your facility, and find things in life that inspire you, that will keep you developing your voice, your personality, and showing people what you have to say on the drums that's different to everyone else, okay? Try and find your natural state as a player, all right? So that's the on the kit. Those 3 categories for me is what defines a great player. Now, with that in mind, increase the value in all of those areas. So if you want the gig of your dreams, then you have to level up, man. You have to fall into a single digits percentage of how good you are in those areas. It's just how it is. As a player, you need to be world class, and there's ways that you can do that. I mean, within Mastermind, I teach things that I consider are what make players world class, and I call them high value ticket items or slow burn long term stuff. It's usually the stuff that you don't want to work on, but the residuals are exponential. So anyway, the point is that you've got to get all those things locked in, and then you need to get it to a world-class level. So you've got to do the reps, okay? So reps, 2, 3, 4 hours a day working on the things that you think define you as a player, that are the most important to you as a player, and then in turn help you express as a player, okay? So that's the on the kit side. And then we've got the off the kit side, and this is the part that a lot of people don't think about, but I've found over the years that the more I invest in this side, 1, working on the drums gets much easier, but in 2, these 2 things combined make everything happen for you, okay? So let's talk about off the kit. When I'm talking about off the drums, I'm talking about everything that you're doing that isn't drumming related, okay? So everything you do in the real world off the drums, developing those areas. And like I say, I'm a very basic person. I like to zoom out and simplify things. So I've relegated the majority of my life into just a couple of categories. So, and I want to share those categories with you now, okay? So the first category, and probably the most important one to me, is my health. All right, so I'm going to sound really naff right now and really lame and really cliche, but my health is priority number 1. Okay, so my physical health first. So for me, that works in 2 ways. That's exercise and nutrition. And you don't need to be a saint with this stuff, and I don't think you need to be a CrossFitter either. But I've found that the more I work on my body, the better my mind gets. Okay, so for me, it starts with looking after myself. So I exercise every day in some shape or form, and over the years that's varied in 1,000 different ways. I can tell you many stories of me getting obsessed with certain things and doing competitions and doing running and all these different things. Now I just sort of think about exercise in a more holistic longevity sense. So for me, it's really just about making sure that I move every single day in some shape or form, okay? And then there's the nutrition side as well, which, it can get tied up into a little bit of ideology with nutrition, because obviously your personal views on food will come into play. But for me, just to keep it short, I fast every day. It's very, very seldom that I'll have food before lunchtime, and in most cases, because I come down to the studio, if I leave early when I drop my daughter off at school, then I probably won't start eating until about 3 or 4 most days. Now when I do start eating, I always prioritize protein, so I always break my fast with protein. That is the most important macronutrient to me. And then from then on, as long as I get like a good amount of protein in for the rest of my eating time in the day, or eating window, however you want to refer to it, then I don't really mind a few treats here and there and things like that, because there's really nothing that I can do in the back end of the day that will compromise what my health goals are. And I find that a lot of those primal urges of sugar and things like that, they will die down the more you sort of lock into this style of lifestyle, this style of living, this type of lifestyle. And so my health and my nutrition are priority number 1. When it comes to My exercise, I just make sure I do a bunch of cardio and a bunch of exercises that involve stimulating my muscles every day. That's it. Now it can rotate. It can be bodyweight stuff. I can jump on the rower. I love to go for a run with my son in the pram, whatever it is. But I just make sure that I stretch every day and I do about an hour's of exercise every single day. All right, rain, hail, or shine. And there's always ways that you can work around this stuff, even if weather is an issue or location and whatever. But that's a personal journey. So anyway, health first. The next part of it. So category 2, we've established that health is category 1. The next one is well-being. Okay, so well-being is everything internal. We just talked about category 1, which is external, which is physically moving and eating. Now I'm talking about internal, so I'm talking about your mind. So remember, the body is the filter to the mind, okay? If you want your mind to work really, really well, first and foremost, start off with looking after the body. That's only one part of it. The next part of it is, what are you letting into your mind on a daily basis? And once again, I'm going to sound cliche, but there's some things here that you can do that are hard to do, but the payoff is massive, okay? So let's talk about how to regulate and manage and monitor your well-being so that your mind is sharp and it's always improving and you're moving forward, okay? Because remember, your mind is really going to be the difference between you and that next person. It's like whether the mind is what's controlling you to stay in longer with your practice sessions, whether you're feeding your body and your mind in a way where you're coming up with new ideas. Your mind is literally the difference between you making it or breaking it, okay? So the way that I do it, and I'm just going to tell you what I do, is I get up super early every day. Unless I've got a gig on, I might stay in bed another hour or two longer, but by and large, I get up super early every day, usually around 4 or 4:30 in the morning. I make a pot of coffee and I always start with reading for at least an hour every morning. Now, I read things that I find challenging in terms of the type of writing, but also sometimes in terms of the ideas as well. I read things around psychology, neuroscience, health, well-being, all the stuff that I'm kind of talking to you about now. Those are books that I'm really, really interested in. And if you want to know some of the books that started me on this journey, then you can click, let's do it here. You can click this video here, my top 5 book recommendations, or these books will change your life. But I start my day with reading because at that time of the day, I don't have anything that's sort of come into my world that's compromising my way of thinking, okay? So I've just woken up fresh, I've just sat down, I'm in a really, really good state to be taking information in, and I can retain information much easier at that time of the day when the day hasn't started, okay? Now, I've got some rules as well, and these rules are hard to enforce, but I've just got a hardline approach on them. The first rule is that my phone does not go in my bedroom. This is probably one of the more recent rules, but it is a rule nonetheless that I've been enforcing for some time now. But my phone does not go in my bedroom, okay? I'm a firm believer that the room is really only for sleeping and anything else that you may want to do in there that doesn't involve your phone, okay? But you can figure out what that is. Anyway, so my phone doesn't go in my room. So what that means is that when I wake up, I don't grab my phone. And people will often say to me, but what do you do about an alarm clock? And I say, well, I just bought an manual alarm that only needs one AA battery. And it's a super quiet alarm. It's super small. And I just set it. It's a manual alarm clock. Remember those things? I just got it off Temu. I think it cost me like $5. Anyway, so my alarm goes off, and because my phone's not in the room, it's not the first thing that I grab. The first thing that I do is I get up and I go and I start brewing my coffee. Coffee takes usually about 10 minutes to brew. So within that time, I'm standing by the coffee machine. I might go to the bathroom, have a drink of water, killing that first 10 minutes, just waiting for the coffee to brew, but I don't go grab my phone. And that is a really, really hard thing to do. And it's something that I've had to even navigate. I can only imagine what it would be like being a teenager in this day and age, because as a 40-year-old adult, I really, really struggle with not going to my phone at times that I really don't want to go to it. Like, I don't want to lose hours to explore. I don't want to lose time to this, swiping and swiping and swiping to mindless shit. But even as an adult, it's really hard to stop yourself from doing that. And the self-control that's required is like high-level self-control. So I work around it. Another thing that I do is I put my phone in a lockbox. Okay, these are the links that I go to stay in the zones that I know I need to stay in for the things that I'm trying to achieve, okay? That could be for the writing that I'm doing. I'm currently writing a book now as well. That could be for the courses that I'm creating. And so that's writing the curriculum and then filming it and editing it. That's doing all the back-end stuff for my website. That's doing anything that involves me to be super focused. My phone can get in the way of it. And because I run a lot of my business off my phone, it's super, like tantalizing to pick it up and just check where things are going and what's happening and who's tagged me or whatever. So I put it in a lockbox. Once again, I got it off Temu. It cost me $44, and I put my phone in at night, and I set it for how many hours I want it to be locked up. So generally I go to bed at around 9:30. I don't want access to the phone till at least 6:37. I usually say 7, but sometimes it might be 6:30 because I know I have to have access to it for a run or things like that. Anyway, I set the amount of hours, so 9:30, that'd be 9 hours, 9:30 to 6:30, and it starts a timer, and I literally cannot get into this lockbox for 9 hours as it counts down. Now, if I wanted to get into my phone, if I wanted to get access to my phone, then I would just break the box, but it would still require a little bit of effort to do that. But I don't, because I'm an adult and I don't ever need to get into my phone that bad. But I just find that it gives me much more control over those primal monkey self-gratifying urges and desires that we give into super quick, okay? So I'll be standing there if my phone isn't in the lockbox and I'm waiting for the coffee to brew, and I'll be like, oh, I'll just check my emails. And boom, I'm gone, I'm lost. And not only that, but I've let something in external that shakes my mindset for that time of the morning, okay? Like I said to you, reading at that time of the day is super important to me to stay in the zone. So I do whatever I can to do that. And the reason why I start with reading is because it sets me up for the next thing that I do in the morning, which is writing. So I write my newsletter, but I also do a lot of writing online with my posts. I write my drum curriculums. I'm always writing down ideas. I journal. I do a lot of things where it's about getting my ideas to paper, because then I'm better at sort of expressing them. So writing is super important to me. So if I start off with reading, it helps seed ideas, and the ideas start to flow, and then in turn they couple with things that I might already be thinking about, and then I start writing about them. And that's generally how I come up with my newsletter ideas and whatnot. So it's just a really good setup for the writing window, and that could last for 30 minutes sometimes, because I've only got 30 minutes, or it could be 2 hours. Whatever it is, I always write after my reading. And then the next thing is generally my wife and kids are up at that point, so I do the morning thing, take my daughter to school, and then I get my exercise in, which is that, back to the health part of it. I make sure that I get that in every day. So it's simple little things, but those things really, really contribute to a healthy well-being, a healthy mindset. I have all of the social medias that I'm a part of muted, so when I go into them, I don't really see anything that I'm not in there for, so that I get in, do my post, engage where I need to, and then I get out. If I'm thinking about what my friend is doing, like what you're doing, then I will actively go in and check out what you're doing. But when I'm doing posts online, I don't want to go onto social media and be distracted by stuff that's getting thrown at me. So I just mute everyone, and then I just post, and then I get the hell out of there. Another thing that I do is I don't watch TV, I don't read newspapers, I don't surf the internet looking for what's going on in the world, because I've just found over the years that everyone will tell you anyway. If the world's ending, I will be told. I don't need to find out about it in this 24/7 media. And not only that, it just gets in the way of what I'm trying to do. So at any given time, you are getting distracted. You are your attention is being taken from you, and that's your most valuable asset, is your attention, and how long you can sustain with the things that you're trying to focus on, but also trying not to let your attention be taken away from you as well. And I'm really, really vigilant with that. So there's that part of it for well-being as well. So controlling your input, so that in turn you have a much better and healthier output. Because the better you are regulating and controlling the things that are coming in, the more higher quality output you're going to have. That's what I found as well. Now this comes down to everything that you're doing. Like it's amazing when you start to consider how much infiltration you're letting in, that we're all letting in on a daily basis, that if you just make a few changes, it can really impact your life in a really healthy way. A lot of people are struggling with mental health. A lot of people are struggling with online. A lot of people are struggling with social media. These are the things that I do and that I've done to help regulate this, okay? Then the next thing is, so we've got 2 categories so far. We've got health, we've got well-being, and then the next one is relationships. So I initially wrote this down as family, because my family, I'm a husband, I'm a father of 3, ranging from 20 years old down to 11 months old. I'm also obviously a brother, not obviously, I'm a son obviously, but I'm also a brother, and I'm a brother, relationships are super important. I always wrap it around family, but as I've sort of thought about this a little bit more broadly, I just mean relationships in general, okay? So this is the 3rd category. Every interaction that you have and how it impacts you and how it affects you, everything that you're doing socially, and the impact that you're leaving on other people as well, okay? So I think about my immediate relationships, as I said, my family, but I'm also thinking about all the relationships that I have with the bands that I work with people that I work with professionally, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a coach, as an educator, is whatever it is. Like, we all have many different versions of relationships in our life. The main thing that I'm trying to always do is leave a positive mark on the people that I engage with, that I've chosen to engage with in my life, which I want to talk about in a second. But then the next thing is just making sure that if I leave a room, I want it to be better than when I entered it socially, okay? So I'm always there to add more to the situation than take from it. I've just found that karmically that sits a little bit better in the universe. Not to get woo-woo, but I just want to point that out. And then the next part that I was talking about is understanding that the people that you let into your life will have a massive impact on your mental health and your well-being, okay? So, the line that you are a product of the 5 people that you hang out with most, that is a real thing, all right? So don't take for granted the power of what that is. And I'm very, very selective on who I let into my life, especially as a 40-year-old. It was very different in my mid-20s. You're a lot more resilient and tolerant of shit out there, of shit people out there. But as a 40-year-old with a lot more things to worry about and consider, and even just my own state of mind, keeping me in the zone for the things that I need to do and show up for every day, I'm very, very specific about who I let into my life. And I've just found that life has got much better when I control those things, okay? So relationships in general, how you deal with your bands, how you deal with your family and your friendships, and then also who you let into your life, okay? Because people will derail you, and people will also make you feel silly about the things that you're trying to do if you tell them. Be very selective on who you share your ideas with, because some people are just out there to let you know that they're going to express to you that it's not a good idea because they're not happy with their circumstances. But that little seed of doubt could be detrimental to your really good idea, okay? So be very selective on who you let in, and just look after all your relationships that need to be looked after, okay? And then the fourth and final pillar, as I call them, these are my 4 pillars, is business, okay? So I think a lot about business because I'm in the, I'm in the business of being a professional musician. And I'm pretty honest about how I approach this. So I make money, I think it's 6 different ways as a drummer. So I make money as a live drummer. I make money as a studio drummer, whether it's in my studio or whether it's in someone else's studio. So offering services for that. I make money, I sell drum gear. So I sell drum products, 3 of them that I invented. And I'm also the New Zealand distributor for Vincent Sticks, who I'm an endorsee of. I've been an endorsee with them for 4 or 5 years now. But then 2 years ago, I took a punt and I said, look, I wouldn't mind distributing you guys in New Zealand. So I bought a bunch of their stock. They said, yes, let's do it. I bought a bunch of their stock, and now I sell their drumsticks locally as well. And I've got that under a website called drumgear.co.nz. You can see the 3 products that I made. Aluminium drumsticks. These guys, so they're 4 times heavier than a regular stick, and I use these all the time on that practice pad there. I've been using these for over 20 years now. I make them with my dad. My drumstick bag, which you can see, I call it the grab and go stick bag. It's modeled off the Vic Firth one, but just with a few mods that suited me a little bit more, but I get those made and I sell them. I used to play Pearl drums as an endorsee, and while I was using their pedals, the Pearl Eliminator, I made a smooth footboard plate because I didn't like the grips on the pedal. I loved the pedal, I just didn't like the grips. And so yeah, I sell those products to people all over the world as well. So that's the 3rd way. The 4th way is I teach one-on-one. So I don't do much teaching one-on-one just because of time, and I'm not really it's only really if the student aligns with my philosophies that I'll work with them. So it's really just about kind of screening them first, I suppose. So we've got one-on-one teaching, so that's 4. I sell drum courses over at masterminddrummer.com, where I focus on the specific things that I think are needle movers for people leveling up on the kit. And then everything I teach, like I said, has a backbone of personal development as well. So it's sharing my personal philosophies on the world along with the curriculum. So that's the 5th one. I'm a mentor, so I mentor a lot of people. I hold coaching programs, so 30-day coaching programs to drummers from all over the world. So I consider that a different category to one-on-one, because it's actually about mentorship and really investing in the person that I'm dealing with and understanding that there's a bit more responsibility with that. And then this is that 6? And then the final one is I do drum clinics. So I mean, even this year alone, in the last few months, I've done 5 drum clinics around New Zealand. I've been asked to do them in Australia. I've been asked to do them in the UK. And this is a clinic around, I call it How to Level Up as a Modern Drummer. And this is a clinic that I wrote that's about 2.5 hours long. I play through 7 songs from 7 different artists I've worked with for over the last 20 years. And each song represents a different message or a different lesson that I've learned along the way. And so, there's a real narrative to it. It has a point, believe it or not. But yeah, these are things that I do to generate an income. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to be as diversive or like diversify as strongly as what I have. I do think that diversification is key in the modern age. I don't think that you can just be a live player, because you've got to consider the fact that one day you will not be playing live. So what are you going to do then? But I do believe that this is a personal journey. I'm more interested in drumming when I am doing little bits of everything. So the main thing for me is maintaining my love and desire to sit down and work on that, okay? So I still log hours every day on my playing. If that's ever compromised, it tends to be because I'm focusing too much time on one of those given areas that I mentioned. Maybe I'm teaching too much, or maybe I'm playing live too much, or whatever it is. So I try and have an even spread of my attention to those ways that I generate an income, my business, and then it means that it doesn't compromise my desire to sit down and play. So those 4 areas off the kit, I give a lot of attention: health, well-being, relationships, and business. And what you find is that when you increase the value in those areas, everything gets better, okay? So starting with your health, if you increase your health, you're in a better position, you're a lot more tolerant as a person, you've got better mood regulation, you're less to make a decision based on feelings and more rational, you've got much more control over yourself and the things that you do in your day-to-day, so that in turn is affecting your well-being in a positive way. These things, your well-being affects your relationships, is the third one. And then when those 3 things are dialed in, it tends to be that business decisions are much easier to fall into because you've leveled up. You've actually moved up to an area that, to be honest, like not many people really hang out at. Like I don't really see many people talking about this stuff as much as they should, but I do see a lot of lost creatives online that are trying to figure out how to make their path and carve their path, make their way in this world. So in a nutshell, this is how you get the dream. This is how you get the gig of your dreams. This is how you get the opportunities that you desire. Level up in those 3 areas on the drums: pocket, facility, and personality. And I mean level up. Spend hours working on this stuff. If you want to get stuff that's of a high level, then get your playing to a high level, okay? In the world that you're interested in with your genre or style. Go hard. Then, on the other side, look after yourself. Keep yourself in a real great, positive, powerful frame of mind. And then in turn with those 2 things, you will get gifted ideas that stems new ideas and new goals. And it's an exponential thing. The investment that you make in yourself, you get rewarded in a new way of looking at things. You get seeded ideas that you can move forward with. All these things, okay? There's so many benefits from doing this stuff. I mean, sitting down and reading every morning has got me much better at focusing, because sitting down and reading a book for an hour is actually quite hard to do in this day and age. But overall, I've just got better at being more attentive. I can be a lot more focused on a single task. So, you don't even know where these positive steps forward are going to help you move forward, okay? You've just got to kind of trust the process of looking after your health, dialing in your input so you've got a better output with your well-being, which puts you in a happier state. It affects your relationships in a positive way because you're changing as a person, so the way you're interacting is changing. And then those 3 things combined really, really help you in business as well, because you're easier to deal with. Maybe you're a lot more attractive to deal with as well, because you've got a higher skill set, coupled with the fact that you're just a legend. Like, whatever it is, I just find that the more that you focus on these 2 areas and then level them up and go hard on all of them, all of your opportunities start to open up and start to happen. I'm yet to come across someone that when they've worked really hard on all those areas, they don't get everything they want. And I'm a testament to that, because of my life, I'm really, really happy. I get all the opportunities that I put my sort of desires out for. I still get opportunities that I didn't even know were coming. That's something that I always make really, really clear too. It's like all this preparation and all this work you're doing on yourself is not for the gigs that you know are around the corner or the opportunities that you know are around the corner. It's for the ones you don't. It means that when you get a call and the opportunity is maybe 15% out of your ability or your range, you can do it because you've been doing the work. You'll make up that difference, okay? So that to me is the fail-safe system on how to level up as a creative and how to get the gig of your dreams or the opportunities of your dreams. Increase your value on the kit, increase your value off the kit, get into a high level with both of them, realize that they are one and the same, and everything will get much better from then on. I mean, that in a nutshell is where I'm coming at. I know I've been hitting online pretty hard with my views on this stuff, but you basically just got what my whole philosophy is with Mastermind in a nutshell. Now, if you're interested in any of the concepts that I teach or my courses in general, head over to masterminddrummer.com. I'm about to release 2 more courses, but yeah, there's a few different things there now. I've got a course on double stroke mastery because I really feel that having good double stroke is sort of the starting point. I'm about to release my next course, which is the key to dynamics and mechanics mastery. Followed by that, we've got the key to chops mastery, the key to single kick mastery, where I literally just teach you exactly what I did to increase my facility around the kit, my dexterity and my control with my hands and my feet, and then also my voice that comes with it. And then I've also got a 30-day coaching program in there that's self-led. This is the one that I was teaching live. It's a high ticket item, so meaning that it costs a lot to do, but I've released it as a self-led course, and I'm about to release the 2.0 version of that. Now, when I do release the 2.0 version of the self-led course, the price is going to go up because I'm adding so much more to it. But the whole purpose of this stuff, honestly, for me is just, it's an extension of who I am, which is understanding that for me to move forward as a player, I need to really make sure that the person's dialed in too, and then everything gets so much easier, okay? And that's what I believe will really help you too, believe it or not. Yeah, like I said, if you want to sign up to my newsletter, head over to masterminddrummer.com as well. Otherwise, thanks for your attention. It's been a while. We're sitting at about 42 minutes right now. But hey, when it's important and you've got something to say, then you got to say it. All right, thanks. I'll see you next time.